and watch us where we go, and help us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer when we lose our way. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be saved. I pray you'll find your light and hold it in our hearts. When stars go out each night, remind us where you are. Let this be our prayer when shadows fill our days. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, give us faith so we'll be saved. A world where pain and sorrow will be ended, and every heart that's broken will be mended, and we'll remember we are all God's children, reaching out to touch you, reaching to the sky. We ask that life be kind and watch us from above. We hope each soul will find another soul to love. Let this be our prayer. Just like every child need to find a place, guide us with your grace, give us faith so we'll be saved. Need to find a place, guide us with your grace, give us faith so we'll be saved.
We are here today with open hands, open hearts, but very few words. Very, very few words. We're not here to offer simplistic answers to cries of anguish, cries that begin with why, my God, why? We won't respond quickly. to that timeless question with breezy spirituality or thoughtless theology. No, we'll let the question remain. Why? Today, though, is a day to pay attention to a few words. I'm especially remembering those of the Reverend William Sloane Coffin. Many years ago, he was the prophetic pastor at the Riverside Church in New York City. At the funeral for his young adult son, who was killed in a terrible car accident, he said to the folks gathered there, "The first of all our hearts to break at the news of my son's tragic death was the heart of God." On Sunday, Palm Sunday, the day before Passover, the first of all our hearts to break was God's. This is the good news of the Bible. This is the good news of the Jewish and Christian faiths, because it is a broken-hearted God who is always willing to walk with us through the valley of the shadow, to lead us through that dark place to new life, to new hope, to new love. It was a broken-hearted God who heard the cries of God's people in Egypt who were under the yoke of slavery. And it was a broken-hearted God who heard that cry and led them out of that dark place into new life and into freedom. It was a broken-hearted God who looked at an act of violence committed against one named Jesus, an act of violence perpetrated by the occupying army. We need to be sure, we Christians need to be sure that we state that clearly. For too long, we've let bad theology and bad understanding misstate what happened. He was killed by the occupying army. God looked at the worst that could happen to Jesus, and God said, "This is not the last thing. It will not be the last." This is the God who says that whether we are in the highest heaven or in the pit, in the depths of Sheol, this God will never leave us alone. This is the Holy One who promises to be with us in this one life and this one death that we all share. Our hope is built on nothing less than the promise of God's presence with us, of God with us. This is the God who's present to us in our connections with each other. That seems like a simple thing, but it's powerfully true. Look around at this crowd here this morning. Jews and Christians, there are Muslims and Buddhists in this room, there are friends and neighbors. But here's the thing, this community center, this place always looks like this. I've been here for a number of events and activities. I've always been welcomed. I've always felt like I was at home here among the folks who are here. Through the power of our connections, we have the ability to move past hatred to a life based on love. The researcher Brene Brown writes, "We cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known. When we allow our most powerful and vulnerable selves to be known." In order to cultivate that vulnerability and that power, we need courage. It's also Brene Brown who reminds me that the word courage comes from an old word that at its root means heart. Courage is something more than bravery. To have courage is to be willing to speak your story, to tell your story from the heart, to tell our story from the heart. Do we have the courage to tell our shared story? Do we have the courage to proclaim to the world that there's not enough evil or hatred in all of the universe combined to squelch the singular love of a grandfather for his grandson, of a daughter for her mother, of the love that you have in your heart? Do we have the courage to stand in the face of all that might be against us and speak words of love, words of hope. One person with the courage to tell their story of love is more than enough to lead our world from the fear of hatred to the holiness of hope. Sisters and brothers, we have gathered here with open hearts, open hands. Let us open them wide enough to receive the power of vulnerable love so that we might move forward in hope. Amen.
Would the community please rise?
El Male Rachamim Shochein Bameromim Hamitzay Menucha Nechona Tachat כנפי השכינה במעלה קדושים ודורים כזוהר הרגיע מזהירים את נשמות היקרים שהזכרנו היום לברכה שילכו לעולמם בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם לכן ברחמים אז תיראו בסדר גנבך לעולמים וצרו ברצון חיים נשמותיהם בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם אדוני הוא נחלתם וינוח ושלום על משכבם ונאמר